Divine greetings, ones and zeros, zeros and ones, boys and girls that are now men and women, kings and queens, gods and goddesses, spiritual beings of this divine matrix. Welcome. My name is Clay. Today I want to talk about escaping Jamaica, and what that means is transcending the titles and labels that we put on ourselves, that others put on us, so that we may be spiritual beings. And this message, well, first of all, I want to thank all my subscribers and viewers, those who have shared the videos. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it, as what I'm doing is a practice of rewiring my mental publicly, so that I can have that energy of public awareness within my being as I rewire my mind, my mental, my soul, to the earth's soul, to the collective soul of human beings. So I was saying that when I'm talking about escaping Jamaica, transcending the labels, transcending all labels that we put on ourselves, that others put on us, that we collectively agree that we're going to come here to transcend. Now, the word Jamaica is a word put on that land by the colonizer. The colonizer is the synthetic man. The colonizer is not natural. The colonizer has a parasitic mentality. So, an abuser mentality, and a mentality based in lack, a mentality based in degradation, a mentality based in deterioration. That is the colonizer's mind. And the colonizer, once he colonizes something, or she colonizes something, she puts that mentality into the thing that she colonizes. And the thing that she colonizes or he colonizes is now impregnated with the colonizer's mentality. That is what we say, that is what we mean when we say you're in mental bondage, you're in mental chains, you're suffering from Stockholm syndrome or PTSD, or you've been induced with narcissism. This is the same type of language. There are different variations of symptoms. However, the energy is the energy of fear. So the energy of fear has been induced into those who have been abused, into those who have been captured, into those who have been colonized. Now, what I'm saying is that as I'm rewiring my mind, as I've been through schizophrenia, and I continue to go through schizophrenia, I see wherein I'm becoming more and more aware. You could call this more and more enlightened as to the trauma that was on me, that has been put on me, that I myself have asked for, and that those who in agreement with being here have put on me. So this is how I say that I'm both, not I am. I have been, in my actions, I've been both the colonizer and the colonized. I've been both the abuser and the abused. I've been the narcissist. I've been in particularly the covert narcissist. Because in realizing, in being aware, what happens is that you recognize that you have to hold yourself, you have it to hold yourself accountable for the energy that you've used. One of the things we say in Jamaica is, "What feel can't be unfeel." What feel can't be unfeel, which means, or which translates into the scientific term that energy is neither created nor destroyed. Another way of looking at it is the African phrase Ubuntu, which is "I am because we are." And another practice that is of African origin or of native origin is the practice of animism, where everything is animated with the breath of life. Spirit is that which moves the flesh. And I've done videos or rewiring that shows how it is that spirit animates the flesh, and it is not the flesh that animates spirit. Showing how spirit is the infinite and the flesh is the finite. You could say that spirit is angelic and the flesh is demonic, and that ties into 666 from the Bible, from the Bible. Now, to continue the transcendence of being out of the Jamaican colonization. And this methodology or this principle applies to Americans, it applies to South Africans, it applies to Nigerian, it applies to Americans, it applies to Australians, it applies to all the varying nations of the earth, because all nations of the earth, no nation, as far as I'm aware of, is currently in their native tongue, meaning they do not call, the land masses are not referred to by their native tongue, which means that they have been synthesized, they have been made into plastic beings, the earth, through our mental. So when I say I'm a Jamaican and I'm humbled into calling myself a Jamaican, and as I'm humbled into calling myself a Jamaican, I see the faults that I have incurred in calling myself a Jamaican. Because even though I'm a Jamaican, first and foremost, I'm a spiritual being. So being a Jamaican, I see the problems, the trauma that has been put on a Jamaican, the problems, the trauma that has been put on an American and a British person. So from the Jamaican perspective, that landmass was never called Jamaica. There are varying speculation as to what it was called previously, and I listened to all those speculations, Jamaica or Haxamaica or something like that. And then there's word that there is a word in Nigeria, in Yoruba, that explains what Jamaica is. So apparently there's a Jamaica word in the Igbo or Yoruba language. However, the thing is to transcend the language itself. And the motto of Jamaica, which is the directing way of life according to language, is out of many one people. Now, some people would say that it's out of many one people because there was first the Arawak people, and then the African people, and then came the Chinese, and then the Indians, or the Indians and then the Chinese, and then the Syrians that came to populate Jamaica. And now everyone from across the world comes to Jamaica to live according to their own desire. Now, the motto is out of many one people, and some would say that what that means is out of the many that came to Jamaica, we are one people. And I say that that is incorrect, because it doesn't pay homage to the native people. What I say is that out of one native people, all the people came. So out of one people, there are many. And that pays homage to the native people. That pays homage to African people. That pays homage to the non-colonized people. That pays homage to the melanated people. That pays homage to the natural people, as opposed to paying homage to the synthetic people. Out of one came the many. That is also very natural in understanding when the Bible says, honor thy mother and thy father on the earth so that the days may be well with you. It also pays homage to the truth that energy is neither created nor destroyed. We all came from one energy. It pays truth to the, or pays homage to the truth that what fear can't be unfear. Your parents is always going to be your parents. Your children are always going to be your children. You cannot have a race of people that is on the planet that disrespects their parents and at the same time receive the wealth of legacy. You cannot receive the wealth of healthy legacy if you don't pay homage to your parents. You're gonna receive spells and curses. You're gonna receive diseases in your mental. You're gonna be either a colonizer or you're gonna be prejudiced. So to continue with the language that has been put on the landmass we call Jamaica. Further, the land is then separated into what is currently now 14 parishes. And all those 14 parishes represent 14 spells, 14 sections that has been categorized by the colonizer to put specific spells on the people. So a person may say that they are from St. Thomas, for example. I'm from St. Thomas. And before my awareness, I had no idea who St. Thomas was. And according to the scriptures, or according to the Christian way of doing things, which came from the Romans, which is an evolution through the Greece, St. Thomas was some form of a religious person. So what it's saying is that I'm under the spell of St. Thomas, and I live according to St. Thomas in the land of Jamaica, which I'm transcending that, because St. Thomas, according to what I understand, was never a good person. St. Thomas was a colonizer. And then there is places like St. Elizabeth, coming from the saint called Elizabeth, possibly Queen Elizabeth. It's the same thing. There's a spell on that part of the land according to St. Elizabeth. No different from St. Mary and Westmoreland or Hanover. These are colonizers' trademarks. And these trademarks have patented a way of thinking, a way of being. So when you're a human being in those lands and you say you are from these places, you're saying you're from that colonized mentality. And those are spells that you're putting onto yourself. Those are spellbinders that you put onto yourself. The street, you may say you're on Queen Street in the land of Jamaica. You may say you're from Tivoli. All these places, these are spells that you put onto yourself. If you're not aware. Once you become aware, you can use the spells. Like, for example, I say that I'm a Jamaican. That is the reality. I'm a Jamaican and I'm from St. Thomas. I lived on, for example, Bogle Avenue, right? Now, when I say that, it is to understand my own trauma. So I respect my trauma. I respect my body. However, I do not come under my body because I'm a spiritual being. In being a spiritual being, I transcend the titles and labels. However, I respect the titles and labels because that is what I am. Correction, that is what I am being. I am being or that is what I was being. I was being a Jamaican. I was not being a spiritual being. I was being a Jamaican. I was being a Jamaican from St. Thomas. And therefore, the spells of that land was of such. Now, this is the same thing for an American, because now I'm in America and I'm in Florida. So before my spiritual awakening, before the schizophrenic break, right? I got my citizenship in America. So I became an American. There again is another spell. I became a Floridian. There again is another spell. And so on and so forth. I became a Floridian living in Miramar. All these are spells because all these are the colonizer's ways. All these are parasitic mentality designed to deteriorate your spirit and to put you in a physical nature, which, as a reminder, the physical nature, according to the Bible, one of the ways I see to put it is according to the Bible, where it says 666 is the mark of the beast. This is the animal nature. This is the nature that is prone to be synthetic. This is the demon. Your flesh is demonic, right? So when you fall under the material aspect of yourself, then you're demonic. You've been demonized. You've been demonized by either representing yourself as the colonizer or the colonized. Demonized to represent yourself either as the captor in the case of Stockholm Syndrome or the abused in the case of PTSD, the traumatized, and that which are those that induced the trauma, right? And you're always going to react according to that unless you transcend those wounds. So Americans are the same thing. British people are the same thing. People from Rome, the same thing. The Vatican, all these titles, it's the same thing. Now, another thing to point out is that Jamaica, the land that we call Jamaica, could have simply been labeled Ubuntu. Ubuntu would have been, in my awareness, a beautiful understanding of the people that are there. Out of many, we are one, which is the motto. Ubuntu says, I am because we are, which it shows you that energy is neither created nor destroyed. I cannot say that you are worthless and at the same time not incur that worthlessness within myself. What I can say and what I can embody is that you are being worthless. You're choosing to be of less worth, which is very different than saying that you are worthless. Because in one case, you're pointing out the trauma that the person is exercising. In the other case, you're putting a spell on that person when you say that person is worthless. And as an enlightened being, I do not use that with myself. So I do not put that on others. I refrain from putting a judgment, from casting a judgment on others. So to go further into the Jamaica that I'm talking about, this ties into the government system. And I'm reminded here by my spirit that Nanny of the Maroons, right? Nanny of the Maroons was not a Jamaican. She was not a Christian. She was not a Muslim. She was not a Rastafarian. She was a spiritual being. And this is one of our national heroes, according to the government of Jamaica, Nanny of the Maroons, right? Now, there is this concern that I have, that I am seeing, that I myself believed in before coming into my spiritual awakening. And that concern is that the reputation, the character of Nanny has been steadily being eroded by the parasitic narrative that is out there. And that narrative says that Nanny of the Maroons signed a peace treaty through Kwaku. Kwaku is the one who they say actually signed the peace treaty, and then they said that Nanny agreed with the peace treaty. According to my awareness, according to my insight, according to my connection, as Nanny is my ancestor, so her blood is within me, as I am her child, as I am an enlightened being with Nanny. I receive insights according to my blood, according to the healing of the trauma that is in my blood. And that healing says that Nanny never compromised with the British. Nanny never compromised with the colonizer. Nanny never compromised with those who practice Stockholm. So there's a narrative that's saying that Nanny compromised, which is totally false. The windward maroon of Kojo is also the one who compromised with the British. And we see how that has permeated into the blood of the people who pays homage to that ancestor. As I used to pay homage to those ancestors, meaning when I say pay homage, home age, right? I used to have my home, my consciousness, aged according to that traumatized blood, which I no longer do, as I'm transcending that trauma. So that is one of the things that is also a point of rewiring my own mental, to see that Nanny of the Maroons was never in compromise with the colonizer. She was never a slave. The moment she was captured and when she got here, she freed herself physically because her mental was never enslaved. Now, the word maroon means that it's a place, it's an island where you have a space that is inaccessible to the colonizer. And I am saying that that has remained the case in Nanny, for Nanny. Her island of a body was never made accessible to the colonizer. She never allowed the colonizer to penetrate her mental and impregnate her so that she could lead people into further devastation. That was never the case with Nanny. And I'm seeing that literature being spread on the internet via history, which is his story, the colonizer's story. And as enlightened beings, as free people, as sovereign beings, we have our own story. As native beings, we have our own story. And that is the story of the whole entire earth. China has been colonized. Japan has been colonized. India has been colonized. Pakistan has been colonized. We have to see that the entire earth has been colonized by the through the mentality primarily of the white race, right? And that is simply the truth. It is through the mentality of the white race, which is a collective agreement. So we all agreed that the white race would be the more fearful race to promote or to propagandize this type of fear onto the earth. For us to come to an enlightened state, for us to come out of our own judgment, right? And in order to do so, we must accept, I'm accepting. And for an enlightened being, it's only acceptance. Love is acceptance. Fear is resistance. So for an enlightened being, you accept everything as love accepts everything. And one of the things to point out that the colonized mentality is the one that produces nuclear weapons. And there are, I believe, 9 countries that have nuclear weapons. And that is a methodology that comes through the colonizer's mentality, which United States was the first country to develop and use nuclear weapons. So you see the parasitic mentality. You see the narcissistic mentality, one where you would destroy the entire earth to protect your own fear. Because that is a fearful directive, a fearful action. Nuclear weaponry is fearful methodology. And then once that has been put on the earth, that has been the modality of promotion, modality of promoting life, which is actually death. on the people, induced in every single nation, induced in every single, another word you could use is tribe, even though it's been tainted. These words that were once transcended. Once you transcend these words, nations, tribes, parishes, states, once you transcend these words, you see that these words can be used as mechanisms for union, because their primary purpose in their physical synthetic state is to cause separation. So a Floridian will be proud in being a Floridian. A person from St. Thomas will be proud in being a person from St. Thomas. A Jamaican will be proud in being a person from Jamaica. An American and a British and so on and so forth. Australia, South Africa. And I'm mentioning these countries because these countries are, I would say, kind of hotspots for colonization. And one of the things that I'm seeing is that Jamaica as a island, Jamaica as a people, the island currently, I believe they say, has 3 million people. However, the point that I'm making is that Jamaica as an island is very influential as a culture. There's, as far as I'm aware, there is no other people on the earth that for its size, for its uniqueness, has influenced the rest of the world culturally the way that Jamaica has influenced the rest of the world. So in me giving this example of unveiling the truth of how it is that Jamaica got its name and how it is that Jamaica continues to bear the trauma of the colonizer. This is how the rest of the world is culturally bearing the trauma of colonization. We are here to transcend the trauma, the wound. We are here to transcend the demon. We are here to be angelic. We are here to be maroons within our own mental. We must kick out, we must get rid of the colonized mentality. As Marcus Garvey said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. As you emancipate yourself from mental slavery, you must have that space within your mind, your soul, your psyche. Have that space within your mind, within your soul, be inaccessible. It must be inaccessible to the colonizer. They can kill the body, but they cannot kill the soul. They can take the body. However, they cannot take the soul. And even in taking the body, that is an illusion. And that is where I'm going to end this share as I rewire my mental. And I trust that if there is any doubt in what it is that I'm saying, or perhaps you see something that I've made a mistake on, please like, comment, share, subscribe, share if you dare. And thank you for those who share the message and those who watch the message and share it within their soul. To that I say Ashe, Amen, and Namaste. Each one, reach one, teach one.